Welcome back to the SevereMMA YouTube channel for our continued coverage of Fight Week for Bellator 270, which goes down this Friday, the 5th of November in Dublin's Three Arena. And today, I am joined by a man who needs no introduction, truly, the Russian Hammer, Artem Lobov. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Andy. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Really
Thanks for
appreciate that.
Thanks for doing this, Artem. So, look, Fight Week, you're in the hotel, you're in the Gibson. How are things going? Firstly, you must be buzzing that there's a big week. Peter's fighting for the title, lightweight title, Bellator lightweight title in a rematch against Patricky Pitbull. We've got James fighting Patchy in a massive fight. And I think there's 11 SPG fighters in total. But how is Peter looking? How are things going so far in the hotel?
Yeah, everything is going good. The mood is very, very good. Number one, everybody is very excited to be back fighting in Ireland, in Dublin, in the Three Arena, with all this COVID shit that's been going on for the last while. Everybody's just very happy to have the crowds back and to be back fighting in their hometown. On top of that, we have a lot more things to be happy about. Peter, fighting for the belt. It's been a long time coming for him. This is a case of where somebody truly has earned, their shot, that they didn't cut no corners, didn't pad his record, didn't do none of that bullshit. He has earned every single thing that's coming his way. So it's great. And, James, has been, he has grown now from a little kid that I remember, 13-year-old little kid, jumping around, training with us to now into an absolute animal, as the strap animal, and he's in a title eliminator, so what a big fight for him as well. On top of that, we have all the other fights. You said it's going to be 11 of us. I didn't really know exactly how many. I just know that anywhere you look as BG fighters, we've got the Italian Mafia, we've got Danny, we've got everybody fighting here, and it's just incredible, to be back fighting, be back in the mix, be back, doing shows. It's the mood is very, very good here.
SPG Worldwide in the Three Arena on Friday night. Artem, you've known Peter for a long, long time. You're a close friend and training partner with him. How would you describe Peter as a fighter?
Yeah, Peter is a real fighter. He's the way when you say about somebody a man, there's just a man, but then about certain people you say he is a man, like a real man, and that's exactly how I describe Peter as a person. And the same thing I would say he's a fighter, like a proper fighter. When I describe him as a fighter, like I said, he's a fighter that didn't cut any corner, didn't look for an easy way. He just said, look, I want to go in there and I want to make it, but I want to make it on the right terms. I want to make it because I deserve to make it, because I've earned my shot, because I've done the work, not because, like I was avoiding guys or, somebody, part of my record or this or the other. He wanted to make it because he deserves to make it. And that's exactly a position that he has put himself in. I have tried to do the same thing as he has, except I came up a little bit short, and Peter actually managed to get it done. He actually managed to prove to the whole world that you don't need to pad your record. You can be a real fighter. It does work, and you can get it done. And there he is fighting for the belt on Friday night.
Artem, obviously this is a rematch. Peter stopped Patricky the last fight with a cut. What did you think of their first fight?
I mean, the fight was great. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was going our way. I understand that the cut was there and the fight was stopped. It was unfortunate. Of course, fighter safety is always paramount. I would have loved that fight to continue because it was going our way. Peter had won the 2 rounds and nothing was going to change. You could see Pitbull was looking for takedowns and not to actually attack or score a submission. He was just looking to get some points and get a breather. He was looking to a rest on Peter, and that's what cost him the fight, because he wasn't really active. He wasn't attacking off the takedown. He was just looking to get a rest. Peter realized that, started raining elbows on top of him, and cut him up in the process. It's unfortunate it ended the way it ended, because another couple of minutes and it would have been a win without any asterisks for Peter. In my eyes, it was still just a confident win. But people want to say whatever they want to say. But as they say, sometimes these things can be blessings in disguise. And sure enough, look where it turned out into. This is now a rematch in Dublin, Ireland, in front of 10,000 fans for the belt. This is incredible. Doesn't get better than this.
Obviously, as you said, we've got the rematch on Friday for the belt and also for 5 rounds. Do you think that the 5 rounds will suit Peter better?
Absolutely. I mean, you could see in the first fight, and that was a 3-round fight. You could see that Patricky was fading. You know, he's one of those guys that's very dangerous early on. You know, very explosive, has a lot of power. You know, but as the fight goes, you know, he tends to fade. It's something that I have struggled in my own career as well. So I know exactly what that's like. So now over 5 rounds, not only is it going to be physically stronger for him, but mentally it's going to, harder for him, but mentally it's going to be harder for him because now he knows that there's 5 rounds that he has to hold back. You know what I mean? That he can't just, go full throttle from the get-go. He has to reserve, you know, that petrol. You know, he knows Peter is not a guy you just put away. You know, Peter is a very durable, very tough, very technical fighter that knows what's up, that's been there with everybody. So I feel that the 5-round fight suits us perfectly.
Do you think that Patricky will be ready for the Dublin crowd? It's obviously a very raucous crowd always. How do you think he'll react to it?
I mean, I know both of the Pitbull brothers are very experienced. You know, they fought in some big arenas. You know, they fought in front of big crowds. Having said that, I've fought in front of many crowds. I've seen even more crowds, and I've never seen anything quite like the Dublin crowd. You know, when those lights, you know, go up, when that crowd starts singing, when the chants start going, when the boos start going, it will be heard throughout the arena for Patricky. You know, it is a very intimidating. You know, your adrenaline is going to be, you know, jumping up and down. Your heart is going to be jumping out of your chest. So I don't know. You know, I mean, he's a seasoned veteran. He should be okay with it, but I honestly he has ever faced anything quite like it, and I do think that it will somewhat affect him.
There's a lot more I want to talk to you about, and I know I only have you for a short time, but just one more on Peter. So how do you see the fight playing out on Friday night between Peter and Patricky Pitbull?
I see it going quite similar to the first fight. You know, I see that the fight is going to be going quite exactly like that. Peter is going to put the pressure on, he's going to keep the pace high, and he's going to get the win. You know, obviously, this is a very high level fight. It's not always easy to get a stoppage in the circumstances like that. But, you know, one thing for sure that it's going to be a great fight. And another thing for sure is that Peter is going to get his hand raised. I have no doubt in this. Even over 3 rounds, I was confident. But now that it's 5, I'm 120% sure that Peter is going to be a world champion on Friday night.
And you mentioned James Gallagher and you know, knowing him as a teenager, a lot of the criticism you hear from people when it comes to James is, you know, it's the same stuff usually. It's oh, he's trying to be like McGregor, a lot of that type of rhetoric. How do you react when you hear something like that?
Oh, I just think it's stupid. Oh, listen, I tell you one thing, right? I've never met Superman in my life, but as a kid, I used to put my underwear on top of my pants, put the fucking towel, you know, into my t-shirt and pretend it was a cape and run around my house pretending to be Superman. And I've never met the guy in my life. I only seen him on TV. Well, James grew up beside Conor. He watched him spar. He trained him. So, of course, some of it has an effect on him. This is how you are formed as an adult. As a kid, different people, different books that you read, different scenarios in your life that happen, they affect you. And they leave a little mark on you, and eventually that forms you into your own individual, you know. And this is what's happening to James. Of course, he's had guys like Gunnar Nelson, guys like Conor McGregor, you know, beside him, training all his life when he was an absolute kid, a teenager. Of course, they've had an effect on him. It would have been crazy if they didn't. He looked up to them, you know. These guys were idols for him. They were absolute heroes for him, you know. So of course they had an effect on him. But that's what happens to every person growing up. This is how an adult is formed, you know, and this is no different. I mean, remember Conor coming up. Everybody said, oh, he's like this guy, or he's like Jason, or he's like the other guy. Now people are saying that guys are like Conor McGregor. And he actually used to tell them that wait and see, down the line, people will be then comparing others to me. And that's what happens now. This is just the cycle of life. It's a circle of life.
I think it's a fantastic matchup that James has in his hands with Patchy. Makes two very, very slick grapplers. A lot of the SBG fighters that I've talked to recently have said that it's not until you actually feel James that you understand his grappling prowess. When you look at this matchup, how do you see it going, and how do you see their grappling skill sets matching up?
It's an incredible fight, an incredible matchup. both guys are grapplers, which is I actually really hope that they hit the mat. I'm genuinely intrigued as a fan to watch them go at it on the floor, you know, on the canvas, see all the exchanges, you know. I do think that maybe Patchy is a little bit more athletic, you know, but I do think that James is more technical. And, you know, for me personally, I would always take technique over any kind of explosion, any kind of, you know, physical ability, you know. Technique is always the number one thing. Many fighters have proven that, you know. Gunnar Nelson, he defeated, you know, Jeff Monson, who was a lot stronger, a lot bigger than him in ADCC. And Gunny was the smaller guy, but he was the more technical guy, and he won that fight. And it happens over and over all the time. You know, if you look at the Klitschko, you know, brothers, when they used to box, they were very technical, but, you know, very, they would dominate the whole world, you know. And so I definitely fancy James in this fight. But as you said, it's no easy fight, you know, and people were talking about, oh, James, this, that. Well, here you go. You wanted it. There it is, you know, give the guy a chance. He's 23 years old, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? He literally finished school fucking yesterday, and they're already going, oh, this and that. Relax a little bit. He is on the right path, and he is where he needs to be. This is a big fight. It's definitely the toughest test for him. And Friday night, well, we get to see his skill set. We get to see what he's been working on. You know, and I do think he's going to get his hand raised. And after that, it's title fight again. You know, I have a feeling there are many titles coming SBG way. You know, Peter, James is next in line after this fight. Sinead is fighting for the belt as well. So it's going to be nice and shiny in the SBG headquarters.
And I want to talk to you about Sinead, but just first, so James has obviously spent the last while training over in Kansas City with James Krause. Have you talked to him about, you know, the training that he got in at Glory MMA and how he feels he's progressed as a fighter since going over there to cross train?
Yeah, I spoke to him. He said that he absolutely loved it there. And this is a good thing to do, you know, because even though James is very young, he is already a star, and he's become a veteran, you know, in SBG. And sometimes, you know, that can be, you know, guys that kind of look up to you a little bit, and, you know, they might be, you know, a little bit careful of this and that. So sometimes it's good to just change scenery, go to a completely new gym where, you know, the guys don't know yet. And if anything, they're like, you're the newcomer, you know what I mean? So they want to prove something to you, and it gets very real. It gets into that fight mode mentality. So this was absolutely brilliant for James. It's great for him to do that. As I said, he's a very young kid, you know, so at his age, you know, that was the right decision for sure. I'm sure he might, you know, train with some other people as well at some point, you know what I mean? And then come back again to SBG. This is so good for him. Like I said to you, he's only 23 years old. Absolute baby he is, you know. I didn't even have my first amateur fight yet. The guy is already in the title eliminator. I mean, come on.
It's, as you said, it's big fight after big fight after big fight for the SBG guys at the moment. Sinead Kavanagh taking on Cris Cyborg for the women's featherweight title. What attributes does Sinead possess that can trouble Cris Cyborg, like someone of her stature?
Honestly, the first time I laid my eyes on Cyborg, and the first time I laid my eyes on Sinead, I was like, that's the fucking fight to make. This would be a fight, you know. I honestly think it's going to be absolutely incredible fight, and I hope to see as much stand-up in this fight as possible, because this would give the fans the fight of the year potentially, you know, fight of the century potentially. If they really go, if Cyborg doesn't start, you know, shooting early and actually shows up to fight and shows up to show the guys what she can do, because Cyborg is a scrapper as well, you know, she's as tough as they come. This is just a perfect matchup, you know. This is going to be the clash of the superpowers, and it's going to be an absolutely incredible fight for the ages. We have to be honest, it's a very 50-50 fight here, you know. It could go either way, but one thing for sure, it's not the one to miss.
Do you think Cyborg's overlooking Sinead's boxing background?
I don't think so. I guarantee you, you know, Cyborg is very experienced. You know, she's a seasoned veteran. She does not take Sinead lightly. She knows how strong Sinead is. She knows how tough Sinead is. She knows how dangerous Sinead's boxing is, you know, so I don't think she's underestimating her. You know, she's going to be well prepared, and so will Sinead, and they're going to go at it, and then we'll see what happens. I have a feeling that belt is coming home.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your good friend Conor. So he's obviously rehabbing from the fractured tibia and fibula. Who would you like to see him come back and fight next?
You know, let's be honest. whoever Conor fights, it's always it's not just a fight, you know. It's an occasion. It's an occasion, honestly. It's even if you've ever been in Vegas for one of Conor's fights, it feels different. I've been to Vegas many times for Conor's fights and for my own fights, for other people's fights. Nothing, nothing is. The atmosphere is never the same as it is when Conor fights. You know, when Conor is in town, there's something about it, you know, just something is in the air, something is in every casino, something is on the streets. It's just different atmosphere. So no matter who he fights, it's going to be exciting. You know, let's be honest, I would probably rather watch fucking Conor hit the bag in the cage than some of the other boring fights that are out there, you know. I don't really know. I just want to see him compete. I want to see him back 100%, back healthy, back training, and back to his full potential. That's all I want to see, you know, because I know when Conor is at his full potential, he's unstoppable. No one can stop him. No one can defeat him.
If you were to make a prediction of who the UFC will make or which fight the UFC will make next, what do you reckon they'll go for?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the options are there. Obviously, Diaz, you know, has got the last fight on his contract, and I know he's talking about fight now, but you know, he's a lot of the times, sometimes, you know, he set out for even longer than that. So, you know, he could easily wait if that was on the horizon. Obviously, Poirier, depending how, you know, the fight as well plays out, he has to fight for the belt now. So he's always an option. Anybody really, you know, Charles Oliveira, you know, he could be a great matchup for Conor as well. I would love to watch that fight. Honestly, anybody, like you match anyone with Conor, I want to see that fight. Let's be honest. I mean, this is why, you know, as they say, the numbers don't lie. You know, pay-per-view numbers don't lie. Anytime Conor fights, doesn't matter who he fights, it's always a sellout, and for a reason. You know, this is not just a sellout out of a fluke, out of, you know, whatever. It's because people are just like me. They want to see Conor fight. It's exciting, no matter who he fights.
Artem, just a few more questions, and I really do appreciate the time. We've talked about almost everyone in SBG Ireland except for yourself now. So obviously, in July, after your most recent bare knuckle fight against Denis Berinchyk, you made the decision to retire. Why was now the time?
You know, it's something that I kind of was playing. The idea I was playing with for a while now. You know, I mentioned it before that I would be retired in the next year or two. I was actually saying 2 years at the time. And you know, I just, you know, for me, I was never, with all the like ups and downs that I've had in my career, it was never, oh, just fight for the money, just whatever. I always had a plan. I was always going somewhere. You know, initially it was like, okay, the belt. Then I realized, okay, hold on a second. The belt doesn't really guarantee a financial security. So then my aim was aimed towards the 7-figure paydays, you know, and I had a plan. I had a road, you know, towards that. And the same here, you know, a win over Denis Berinchyk was setting me up for 7-figure paydays in boxing world, you know, so that's where I was going. After this setback, I mean, I could have still picked it back up and tried to rebuild, but given my age, given, you know, the fact that I was planning to retire already, I have a kid, and given the fact that I have other opportunities elsewhere, I decided to hang up the gloves while I'm still young and well able, and pursue other, you know, things out there. And while I'm still energetic, while my testosterone levels are still nice and high, you know, when I'm still motivated to go and get it, while I'm still motivated to go and hunt. And so that's how I made that decision. You know, I will not be one of those guys that just keeps jumping back in or whatever. I tell you now straight away, you know, there's 7-figure payday, and I come back. You know, obviously Zubair to Hugo fight, I said it before, that one is, you know, retirement is not part of that. You know, whenever I will be offered that fight, I will take it. Whenever I see an opportunity to get that fight, I will take it. That's it. Other than that, I'm retired and pursuing other things now.
And so it sounds like it was pretty much purely a business decision. Like, was there any part of you that where the love for fighting was gone and that played a part in it also, or was it purely the business side?
The business side, I mean, a combination, but the main thing, honestly, was the whole like health, you know, stuff. I mean, you see nowadays with all the brain damage, you know, there's more and more studies on that. People are learning more and more about that. You know, I recently was listening on the radio and they said if you have the ball, you know, the football, like once, just even lightly, it affects your brain ability for the next 15 seconds. I mean, after 15 seconds, it goes back to normal again. But we're talking about very light header of a ball, once. If you've seen my fights, there was a lot more than a light header of the ball, and a lot more than once. And another thing is that if you look at boxing, 20% of boxers retire with permanent brain damage. And one more thing that all those guys that have the brain damage, all those 20% have in common, is that every single one of them said, it won't happen to me. And it happened to them. The reality of the situation is, the longer you spend in that sport, the higher your chances are of being part of that 20%. And given my style, I was very likely to be part of that 20%. So I just had to put my whatever, wants and desires to the side, and just have a cool head and make a rational decision here. And that's what I've done.
This might be a very stupid question to ask someone who's fought in a cage and fought bare knuckle and all the rest, but do you worry about the effects that it's had in your brain for later in life?
The more I know it, the more I learn about it, the more I worry, to be honest with you. Kind of earlier on when I first started, I had no clue, and I just didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. I didn't think it was going to happen to me. And the more I learned, the more kind of worried I got. But I don't regret that, because it was a justified worry. It was a worry backed up by science, by facts. So I'm happy that I learned that. I'm happy that I had people in my life that directed me in the right path, that made me aware of those dangers. And I was able to make this decision, and still in one piece, and still able to string a sentence or two together.
So what now for Artem Lobov? Do you go into coaching? Obviously, you're cornering. Are you cornering
Definitely
Peter
not
this weekend?
coaching. I am cornering Peter this week. Yeah, I'm helping him obviously with the whole of the fight week stuff. A little bit of training. Whatever, handle the media shit and all the stuff that he has. In here, and just moral support, of course. I will be in his corner, of course. I always, whenever I'm in the corner, I give John some of my opinions whenever I see the fight going. But I would never really, shout too much over John. I let him do all the talking. I give him some of my opinions and my advice, and then he makes the decision whether to share that with Peter or not, or, just take it on board. He's the boss man in the corner. I'm just there kind of, to support and, hold ice and a water bottle, really. As for coaching in the future, I don't think I'll be coaching, much. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something I'm good at. I don't feel good taking people's money if I'm not a good coach. I like to do my job well. I appreciate the hard-earned money that people give you, and I would never do a bad job. Any job I've done in my life, but it was, even when it was washing dishes, I gave it my all. When I washed those dishes, you could see your reflection in every single one of those dishes. I worked hard. Even until this day, I'm friends with my old boss, when I was 16, 17 years old washing dishes. I'm still good friends with him, and we always talk about that. And, he tells me to this day, if anytime, anything I was gonna hire anybody or go into business with somebody, you will be my man, because, you've shown me that even at that level, for 6 years an hour washing dishes, I still took it seriously and still gave it a good job. So to answer your question, no, I will not be coaching, because I'm not good at it. Whenever people invite me for seminars, I always tell them, look, I'm happy to show up, because some people just want to hang out. But if you want genuinely a good seminar, let me bring my coach, John Cavanagh, or one of the other, guys like Owen Roddy, Paddy, Cris, somebody who's really good at coaching and enjoys it. And I will come with them, take the pictures, I can spar the guys, I'll move around. But as a coach, I'm not very good, So, no, I won't be coaching.
So what does retirement look like for Artem Lobov?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to work with Rematch. They've been very, very good to me. These guys have become like a family to me. They help me on all fronts. They're a great company to work for. Absolutely, very, very smart people. I'm honored to call them friends. I absolutely love getting advice from them, and love helping them with whatever I can help them with and be useful to them. So I do a lot of work with them, of course. Then another project that I'm involved in is Mahach, the bare knuckle promotion. It's picking up steam. It's getting bigger and bigger. Our next show is going to be in Kazakhstan in December. So I'm going to be attending that. I do a lot of work with them, and they're kind of my main two things that I'm pursuing right now. But I've got other things in the pipeline as well that I'm working on. I don't really, somebody very, very smart that I met when I was in college was a very successful businessman. He gave me good advice. He said, Artem, never talk about your business. If your business is successful, it will speak for itself. So I'm sticking to that advice. We'll see what happens in a couple of years' time. But I'm working, that's for sure.
I can't thank you enough for your time today. I really do appreciate it. If I can add my 2 cents, I would love to see you in some sort of punditry role, because you have a way with words and you're fascinating to listen to. Thanks for joining me today. A massive week ahead, a massive card at Bellator 270 in Dublin on Friday. Peter fighting for the title, James fighting in what'll be a title contender, and then the SBG train rolls on to Sinéad Kavanagh next week, taking on Cris Cyborg. Artem, really appreciate the time, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much.